Hey there, it's Chris, and welcome back to the next part of the Bang Shishigami project, where, as you can see, what we have here is between the last part and this one, I finally gone and hardened the little changes we made, the fixes we made in the upper part of the scarf, as well as the lower scarf here. And as is usual, because I don't actually show the hardening process on screen, I like kind of starting out with these on here just to kind of show you how I'm supporting these things when I do harden it. In this case, remember the wire rod is running along this whole bottom portion of it, so I can just kind of sit you so at least the support is under the rod itself and it won't deform any more than it already has. And same with this, I didn't want to have this thing lying on the ground as I went anywhere, so I kind of structured it so he's kind of sitting on the two prongs that come out, and it just kind of hangs right there. Now, the bottom part of the scarf here is one of those, if I wanted to put more time in, I could probably put hours into getting this thing 100% right, putting in more folds and whatnot. But a part of me is a little worried just on the material itself. Sorry, I'm moving some things out of the way. Because I know the ceramic stuff, I know this clay isn't particularly strong in this type of application. So because I had to make the clay so thick inside here, again, it doesn't look it because I had to crimp the edges, but because it's so thick, it doesn't lend itself to folding in this material. But if I were to do this, say, on like a 3D printer and print it out, or if I were to do it like out of resin or something, if you want to do it out of like metal work or whatever on these, you can probably get a lot more detail out of this than what I had given it. But at the same time, it does give the effect that I want it to. We are going to make sure this works. I got it in here once, so I know it will go. Oh, there we go. First one's in the hole. Well, this is embarrassing. Let me move that out of the way so it doesn't get harmed. That said, once I get this in, hey, there we go. I knew it was going to fit. Once we get this stuff in, we are going to actually finally going to start on the actual hair. I have to do this thing first. There's an order of things. Okay, so that still fits. That's all good. Can pop him in there. And the nail is kind of snug in here. So we don't want to jam it in, so I'm just going to slowly work it down. Because again, this is a fickle material to work with in some instances, but everything does work in there, and he goes. And now we're going to start finally answering that question: is the model I'm making, I know the Bang we see over here that I'm going off of, he is like the most virtuous character in the game. He is like the ultimate good guy in the game. It just honor, dedication, loyalty, all that. I mean, he is there. Is the Bang I'm making going to match that, or have I created some kind of supervillain in the process? Because, yeah, we're about to find out real quick once we get this hair done. So, as for the hair, how are we going to do this? Well, first off, we've been going through a lot of images on the side of the screen, and if you've been paying attention, there's probably one or two that you would imagine that if you're thinking about it, I haven't actually shown. And what I mean by that is, this is a video game series character. He's from the series Blaze Blue, which is a fighting series. And every image I've given you so far, whether it's been like the profile one, whether it's been this back view, and they've all been artworks. You actually haven't seen an actual sprite from the game. So if we want to go and look at the hair stuff, it might actually be helpful to come in and see what the actual sprite from the game, although this is blown up hugely, so on my screen it's like the right size. When I go on here, this is actually pretty close to life size on there, but I'm sure on your screen it probably looks super pixelated. But as you can see from that, there's actually a better one facing this way. That's just his standard standing pose he has in the game. Again, GIFs or GIFs, whatever, him kind of bopping up and down. That's his static pose for all the fighting stuff. And you can see his hair is basically divided into 3 sections. On the one hand, on the very front, coming off the top, you have the bangs coming down and they're flopping forward. Then you come to the middle portion, it gets slicked back into a tie in the back, and then you have the hair that explodes just out from that tie, kind of all over the place. And if we come back to here, zoom in a little bit, you can see it's more exaggerated on the front, and the front is kind of hiding that mid portion, but that back just explodes in this image. So what we're going to do is we're going to do this hair in 2 different pieces. So piece number 1 is going to be modeled directly, I don't need that. We're going to directly add this to the head itself that we have here. And that's going to be, we're going to have the slicked back portion form that, and that's going to poof out into what you see in the back. And then we're going to harden that to the face. That's going to be permanent. After we do that, I will hopefully have this part done this session. So assuming that's done this session, next session we're going to come back and we're actually going to get a clear, if we go back to the image I used in session 2, once again, and actually have it as a side image. If we look at this, this is the clearest one I have. We also have, actually the profile one here also shows it just as good, but I'm a closer view on this one. But he almost has those kind of mutton chop thing coming down on the side of the face. It comes down almost to the mouth down here. So what I'm going to do with that in the next portion dealing with bangs is I'm going to have a wire frame come down from the bottom, up over top of the head, and come back down the other side. And then from that, I'm going to build the bangs and stuff that come out from that. Now, the reason for that is every individual piece you've noticed on here has a wire frame as its core. Well, except for this little thing, because that piece didn't matter. But everything in here has a wire frame as a core, and that's because in a section like this, which is going to be taken on and off, this will allow easier painting behind the hair when I get to that phase in the very not too distant future. But the reason I want to have that wire in there is if we look at the material itself, the clay itself, clay is one of those things, it's similar to concrete, it's strong in compression. You can kind of push down on this, it's not going to go anywhere, but it's very, very weak in tension. You pull it down, it's going to whoop like that. So to counter that, again, this is just like my building, and this is just like my job. We're putting in foundations and whatnot. If you have the concrete and foundation, in order to protect from both the compressive forces and the tensile forces, because again, if something comes down, you're facing compression on the bottom and you have tension up top, is we stick a metal piece in here, and now it becomes a whole lot harder to bend, so it stiffens the whole thing up. And if I'm going to be taking this on and off, it might need to kind of squeak around or whatnot to get on here, because it's going to need to be a tight fit, or else it's going to clump over. So it's going to get jabbed a little bit in the on and off phase. So to protect it from that, we're going to need to have a metal piece in here to keep it safer. So these are going to be the 2 sections we're going off of. So how do we have fun with this hair? First off, as you can see, this head has been misshapen literally the entire project that the head's been done. So now is time to actually justify doing that. And the good thing is, as you've noticed in a lot of the other ones, I need to actually glue the hair and whatnot onto, or glue any kind of pieces onto him or whatnot. I really don't need to do that this time. I can just you can push hard enough to get this to kind of stick. And being as the head itself is almost spherical to start with, I can just push onto this. I need to make sure I haven't hardened this neck portion yet. So I'm not going to put pressure on that, but I can just kind of jab this in, and this will help solve a number of issues. The biggest reason I want to have a layer of this on first is, again, as you've seen before, clay doesn't stick to really anything except itself well. So if I can get a layer of this kind of really shoved on here, stuck on and good, that means when I build the rest of the hair coming off of this, it now has something I can actually stick it to. And that took a little longer than I wanted to figure out. That took about probably 5 or 6 models before I finally kind of quote unquote got it with that, oh, wait, I can do this smarter, not harder. So we're just kind of right now putting on a little bit of a base, and we're going to see what we can do. Now, I'll be honest, part of this I've been partly putting off this whole section for really kind of 2 reasons. There are really 3. One, I could. It's just there's always been something else to do. But like I said, I could have done this before the bottom part of the scarf was in. I feel like I could have done things slightly earlier. I'm looking at it now. I probably could have done this before a lot of, really any of the scarf was done, considering now that I've had a better look at, I'm looking at the wrong image, now that I've had a better look at how it's physically constructed. It doesn't really go back, because again, his particular image, in this one, in the sprite, it's going kind of straight back. In this particular one, it's almost going a fan shape, like peacock out. It's not really going back. So it's not really hitting that. But yeah, one was I could just put it off. The second one was there's going to be this dramatic reveal. He just looked so good. He looks so good as like this super villain kind of person with it just has that villainish looking face. It's so good. The super deep set eyebrows, which were done, or the ridge there, which, yeah, I didn't quite get that right. It's a little deeper than it should be, but it's fine. But because of that, it's just given such this, I just love the look. It's been so much fun, and just, I wanted to keep it. And also now, we can now finally kind of been teasing the whole time, and now it's time to finally go and reveal, do we have a hero-ish looking person, or do we have that villain looking person? And now it's time to finally give the reveal. We've gone as far as we could. It's time to do it. And I'm excited to see what this ultimately will turn into, because quite frankly, I actually don't know. This face, usually the face looks a lot different between when it has hair and when it doesn't. And I'm always nervous about that. And I guess if we're going to have another reason why I put off on this, it's because I always feel like when I go into doing the hair phase, I always feel like I have absolutely no game plan whatsoever on what I'm actually doing. It seems bad saying that, but I never feel confident going into this section. So part of me just kind of keeps putting it off, get the rest of the model to look good. So like in the back of my head, oh, well, if this doesn't turn out right, well, at least you have the rest you can look at that's really good. But I think in any given project we have, whether it's my job stuff, whether it's this stuff, whether it's like anything that we want to do, we have those sections. We do have stuff that we feel really good at, like if I'm doing like the pants or the belt or some like the gauntlet things I have a little more confidence in. I feel good doing those. I feel happy doing those. And then you get to the parts where you're just like, well, not so sure. Now I'm still going to keep the front part here flatter so that when I run the wire over this, it'll actually have something to sit on. So I don't want to go, I'm not going to go all the way back. I'm just going back far enough here. I hope I'm on camera actually, because I didn't realize my camera's been pointing up the entire time. But yeah, okay. So if we're doing this, let's figure out about where, no, I click it, there you go. Okay, so this thing is actually kind of, it's actually kind of up here-ish. I think you being so close is now causing, so we're going to slide you away for now, temporarily. But you're generally going to stick over to here. So you just get a little something on here. I might be pulling some of this stuff off so that I can fit some of the actual hair on here. But I just want to right now really get this thing stuck on and create my bullseye that at least this center portion of the head, all the hair is going to be going, or at least most of the hair is going to be going to. There are always a couple strands that don't have that don't quite get all the way there. And as for a part, his part looks like it's kind of down the middle. So we're just gonna, and if it might be easier just doing this down here. Oh, cool. Nothing is in focus. That's awesome. All right, well, cool. You're gonna get a great view of this. But let's go, if we have a seam down the middle, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put 2 pieces down the side, kind of like that. Whoop. I got it up close, a little bit closer, so it kind of focused temporarily. It will zoom back in again, so I'm not concerned. We kind of take it down the side, and I'm just going to bring it over. Then we're going to want to smooth this out, because this is one of the few head areas where I don't really have crazy hair going everywhere. I feel like a lot of the other characters I've done, like Cat had hair going everywhere, Rain had hair going everywhere, Realm had a hat, and then behind the hat, the hair was hair and like feathers and all that were coming out like everywhere. This one is, at least in this portion, it's actually fairly manicured in a way. Most of the strands come back. There are a couple that are going to come down and miss and kind of come down to the side, but in general, it's actually fairly good looking up top. And yes, we're going to do this. And now, let's see. I wish I had something slightly better. This may take a time or two to kind of get it right. It doesn't come that far past his ears on the side here, or at least the parts that do come down the side. Now anything in front of the ear is going to be done on the front part. Anything kind of behind the ear is going to be done on the back here. And I'm looking, we have, yeah, a couple strands are going to come kind of around this way. It's not going to be that much again. Most of the hair is going to wind up going back towards it, but because usually if I go and I lay hair, you want to start with the strands all the way at the bottom and then overlap and then overlap and overlap as you go. But again, he doesn't have much going on down here, so there really isn't a whole lot to actually overlap. And already it's starting to look a little more like something. Except what I should do before I do that is we probably want to actually we're going to have this going in, we're going to want to have strands coming towards because again, once if I start laying hair anywhere else, it's going to be difficult to get behind some of these pieces. So we're going to start kind of adding these things in now. It doesn't have to be, actually I really don't want it to be completely straight. we can have, as long as the general flow of this is coming back towards the bun here in the back, that's all we need. And I'm not going to overly do this because, again, this part wants to be it does want to be kind of slicked back a little bit. So I'm not going to be super adding stuff. And if over the course of make this, I'm going to be pushing down on this. I know it's going to happen, so I can always redo this after, but I do want to get at least a part down here before I start laying any kind of hair on top of this, or else like I said, I'm going to get myself into trouble. All right, we do want the part to kind of stay and reading like a part down the middle. So I can still do that. Oh, and once again, I did put a little more on or over the ear here than I needed because, again, I will have another part coming down on the side of the ear, so I don't need to beef this part out quite yet. There will be time for that. Yeah, like I said, it can be a little bit messy. That's fine. That's encouraged. If only because he does have a nickname. There is a character called Taukaka in the game, and she gives every single character in there a nickname, whether it's like good guy. It's like they're very simple games. They're very simple kind of names. Good guy, bad guy, clean guy. This guy, he is Scruffy Guy. So his nickname is Scruffy Guy. So again, once we get like the mutton chops and stuff in here and the hair coming off, he's going to get that Scruffy Guy kind of look in the end, I do believe. And now if I'm doing hair on this, even when I get on here, I can add a little bit more detail to it, so it kind of then matches everything else on here. And I'll be honest, hair is also one of those things where if you were to watch probably 10 different streamers or 10 different videographers or 10 different like anybody who actually makes models for any kind of channel and whatnot, you will probably have about 10 different ways people do hair. So this is one of those things that everybody seems to kind of have their own, from what I've seen anyway, everyone seems to kind of have their own unique style on how they go about making hair work. So, which is partly why I think I get nervous going into this, because I'm like, I see nobody else does it the way that I do, or nobody else quite does it that I've seen the way that I do here. But at the same time, the results that I've had with other projects has worked out in the end, so I'm not usually super concerned if it does or doesn't. But it's just one of those, I always just feel like I don't have a game plan coming into this section. So I just put it off until later. Except we're later now. There's not much more later I can get. We are at the laterist. English is hard. I don't know why I've fattened that up. I don't really need to fatten up the end of this. I just want to have, if you have hair coming down one side, you kind of want to have, generally speaking, you get balance from one side to another. So if you have something coming on one side, you're going to get something coming from the other. Now I know I have this one showing to kind of get that. I am using a blown up image of the actual one on here, in which case I can't really see any of these parts that are coming down. Like I said, I'm just doing kind of a highlight section with these strands in the back. They may or may not actually exist. But again, I just want to have a couple that come down here. And then that's going to be that. And the good thing is, because none of this is being glued down right now, in theory, if I don't like where this is going, I can always just scrap it and I can start a new session later on, because this doesn't go live for several days. It's actually Sunday right now, and I believe this one goes live on Wednesday. So if this doesn't work in the end, I still should be okay. There is time to rectify things. Actually, it's not Sunday, it's Saturday. What am I talking about? This whole 3-day weekend for 4th of July is just messing with my brain. No, it's still Saturday. Tomorrow's Sunday. Yesterday was the 4th. Had a great run last night. Although it's a little late to be talking about 4th of July stuff, had an amazingly good 4th of July run last night. It was so nice. It was from start to finish. I left around 8:45, got back around 10 o'clock. From the moment I went out the door to when I got back, there were fireworks going off like everywhere around. They just never stopped. And it was so fun. We had township ones going off to the north, like township ones to the south. Like any kind of township that around us had things kind of going off. We had a lot more kind of homeowner type things going off, and there were some big homeowner ones going off too that just, but it was a really good run. Okay, now's where things are gonna start getting funky. So I have the ball, it's right there. We're gonna chop off the end of that, because again, if you just have a string going around, you're not gonna have the big ball coming off of that. You're gonna have, and at this point, if I'm looking how far over, so if you're there, that's size-wise, that's not too terrible. It's about the size of the face coming up and over and around, and this is also why hair is going to be one of those sections that until this is done, this is going to look incredibly funky. Incredibly funky. Like, it's going to be one of those, how is this going to work? And it just will in the end. I said, one of the earliest models I did was a Senku from Dr. Stone. And if you've ever seen him, his hair is just, it's like snow cones on top. It is, you take about 10 of these things and you just stick them on his head, and that's his hair going over. And just sticking like 1 or 2 on there, it was the most hilarious. It was so funny, so bad, so everything, so nerve-wracking too, because I was like, oh no, is this gonna actually work? But no, it works in the end. But my goodness, it makes you wonder the entire time, like, is this right? I don't know. So we're gonna have some of that going on this, because there's gonna be, yeah, all sorts of like, how is this going to happen? How is this going to work? Can this work? And actually, as I do each one of these, I should be adding the detail to it, because as we keep adding more, it's going to be harder and harder to get this into where I need it to go. So we want to be adding this kind of as we go, if only to make life easier later on. Not possible. It is possible to do it later on, but it's just, why make life harder on yourself when you don't have to? jeez. Trying to find a way to hold this so it's structured and I'm not putting undue pressure on stuff that I don't want to do undue pressure on is fun. But and of course I'm looking at the 2 strands on here, and it reminds me that the running of the bulls is actually going to be in 2 days. We have the 7th of July in Pamplona, running the bulls. Right now we have Bull Bang. We've already shown an image of a bald bull on here once to show how Bald Bang was going to look for a while, so we just have a nice little theme going on that. I will say last night during the run, the dogs were not happy. Any house that had a dog, they were very upset that it sounded like literal bombs were going off like all around. So like I said, there are some homeowners setting stuff off, and I really couldn't see much. Most things were kind of like over the trees or whatnot, but you can hear all the stuff, and it just sounded like our entire area was being shelled from everywhere, all directions. These were not small fireworks the homeowners and whatnot were setting off. They were the full size. They were the full size things. There was one that was in a cul-de-sac right in front of me. It's like 200-300 yards in front. I had very full viewing of. It was probably some of the most amazing fireworks I had, only because it was, you had the trees going down both sides. It was just like perfectly centered in the cul-de-sac on the side, or right in the middle, and it was framed perfectly. I had timed everything, so I was like there absolutely perfectly somehow, and it looked amazing. But if you were a dog and you're like inside a house and you can't physically see what's going on, this last night was bad. Last night was not good for them. Because it was, yeah, again, they had no idea what was going on. You have noises coming from all over. It was just bad news bears if you were a dog. Or anyone who didn't actually have a view of what was happening. Yeah, I think that was really the only display I actually kind of saw, and it lasted for the amount of time it takes to go. It was like anywhere from quarter mile. Yeah, it was probably about anywhere from probably around a quarter mile or so total of that section that I went through. But otherwise, yeah, I couldn't really see anything. Everything was either behind trees or whatnot, but yeah, it's hard to tell which ones are being done by actual townships or whatnot, or which ones are just being done by either a homeowner or a group of homeowners getting together and doing it in, like I said, end of a street, end of a cul-de-sac, end of kind of any of those kind of areas. But it was good. There's a reason I do those runs. I do that run every year, and yeah, this was definitely the most vibrant of them that at least I can remember going through in recent memory. Let's see, that actually comes, I want to say, a little more up here so I can get something else that goes behind it. Yeah, it would be nice to talk about this the entire way through, but I'm not sure how much there's going to be to talk this, because all I'm going to be doing for the next probably 20 minutes is adding a bunch of these things on, and then at the end of that time we start figuring out, okay, did this work, did this not work, do I need to change strategy, are things balanced, and then we go in and actually start kind of problem solving again. But until I get to that phase, it's just going to be adding and adding and adding more and more and more of these things. Because he has a decent amount of volume that comes up here. He definitely has a lot coming up, and it's funny, in this view it looks like the wide parts are out to the side. If we come back to the other view, like on here, it's definitely longest in the middle, so I'm not sure where to stick the longest pieces. So I just kind of have right now the longer ones kind of going out to the side, but yeah, we'll lay a bunch of these things on first, and then we'll figure out from there. Yeah, until we get to like say 3/4 of these things on, it's gonna look 100% wrong until we get to that turning point. We still have plenty of time to go on this, which is why hair. If I get this done right on the first attempt, this actually isn't going to take super. Like I said, this shouldn't take super long to do. And I'm not worried about adding any more structure to the hair here. I don't need to put wireframes in this because I'm not going to be grabbing things by the hair. I'm always going to be grabbing, if I need to take things on and off, I'm going to be grabbing by the head on and off. And the head itself is solid. So, although I have noticed I do have one slight problem on this. In that, where did I put these things? I'm adding weight to the back of him. And that's not helping him stand up straight. So I might just want to do that so I can at least he might be turning any random direction he feels like turning in, but at least that can give a little bit of help in that regard. And actually, yeah, this looks like we didn't push you down enough in here. So let's, yeah, it doesn't want to go out quite as far. It wants to go up more. So that's fine. We can do that. Up is a direction I can definitely go. Back is also a correct kind of direction from what it looks like. So too much beef. Too much beef. Oh, actually, I like this more because now I can just touch the edge of the face. I don't need to touch any clay whatsoever in order to kind of push things in and whatnot. So this is actually a little bit nicer. Oh, you know what? Just for curiosity's sake, we have a couple strands on. We are kind of getting, whoop, don't need you on there. We are kind of getting started, and oh baby, this nail is going to influence how things work. Oh, yes it will. So we're going to need to find the hole that goes in. Okay, so this is going to definitely be flowing out that direction. We're just gonna do that. It's not gonna work otherwise particularly well. This doesn't need to go straight down. That can come down just a little. And actually, it's gonna want to come up a little more and kind of down and kind of out that direction. So I can do something like that. And even looking at the image, it wants to come up even more too. Almost like it's going, almost like he's dropping from the sky. It's missing a lot of mass right now. There's going to be a lot more mass going into this, but at least this is giving a directionality, which is nice because I need that. So we need to not go back any more than this. That's good to know. I'm just sticking the head back in here. Okay, so that was very important to figure out. So let's see. So we have that. So I need you still. I may have pushed it over, but you still need to actually get smoothed into this and connect. And yeah, okay. So now we're heading. All right. So after every few strands we go on here, we might need to double check things are actually working out in our favor. I keep forgetting I need to really thin out this edge so I can shove things kind of in here as we go, especially when I need to add mass to this back here. I'm being very, very quiet. I'm concentrating super hard. Super concentrating. I need my stick. Yeah, I also need my stick to... need the stick to stick in here. Okay, I see you guys twisted. This one I had done should also be kind of coming up and twisting that direction. Alright, scruffy guy. We need you to get some more stuff. Okay, now is where it starts getting a little bit harder, because now we just have to contend with all the other pieces that are in here. And as each new strand goes on, it just means there's more and more stuff that we need to contend with. Everything is vying for space. And I can't go any more that direction, that's for sure. So yeah, we're going to be kind of doing all of this stuff after for sure. But whoa, hello. You went all the way down. I wasn't expecting that. Alright, let's see. We had that. We need stuff coming out. More stuff kind of coming out the back. Okay, maybe I don't need a gigantic piece, but we can get some smaller ones. That's not working. Try that again. Sometimes you, sorry, excuse me. Sometimes you can just tell where it's just going to be too thin to really actually function the way we want it to. There we go. We have even more stuff. In retrospect, I probably should have hardened this thing here because I know I keep messing it up and doing stuff to it. But at the same time, it's not really going anywhere. So, yeah, we'll probably be all right. What are the odds something's going to go wrong catastrophically? And if it does, that neck portion only took a few minutes to put together in the first place anyway, so not too terribly concerned. Okay, so hair is going back. It looks like there still wants more on the far side, but part of me is just a little bit curious on how if I just add one or two kind of pieces up front here. This isn't going to be correct in any way, shape, or form, but just having one or two pieces up front, what does that actually give us for looks? This is going to look actually really, until I actually get this right, this will look really bad. So I'm not sure this is going to help anything. It's just going to make this look more depressing when it's as wrong as it is. I mean, if we have those kind of coming up front, I mean, we're not terrible. We're not terrible. I did my requisite. I added a couple things more, so let's see if we can get this on. We can. And actually, that is starting to look like what he's supposed to look like. Now again, I didn't even put the strands on that front part, but no, that is actually starting to... It's not there yet, but we are working our way in the right direction. This may actually look like Bang yet. We do have kind of the right directionality going, so that's good. We're bopping around the side. We have stuff coming back. Now it's feeling very empty right back in here, so we're going to add some more to the back. It looks like we have good volume going out, but again, we want it to kind of be, if you have a ponytail tail or whatnot, you need it to come out kind of evenly in every direction, and I do definitely have this void back there. So, okay, so far so good. Again, this is one of those sections I'm always nervous about because I just never know how good or bad it's going to be. I want to put those two aside so I can kind of reuse them later on to get a better view of this later on. I see we're already at that time, so I think as with normal, I'm going to get this thing to a point where I'm going to feel really happy about this. And I may, if I need to add one or two more prongs kind of off camera again and then harden it, I may do that because I realize it's already been just about 50 minutes, which is still time to get a decent chunk more of this thing on. I really don't want to do anything off camera. Although at the same time, if I'm close enough, I may just have it. I could just finish off the longer session. I'm not that far off of where I want to be on this guy. I think it is going the right direction. I think it just has really that one void in the back. And I think he actually is going to be okay. He might not necessarily be the uber supervillain that he was looking like for the last however many sessions it's been since I did the face. The face was right after the pants, so it's probably been like 15 sessions or so that he's had that supervillain kind of look to him. It's really that deep set eyebrow, the deep set eye with the overhead light that I have. If my lighting situation didn't have a light directly over my head, I don't think he would have had nearly the same visual effect that he's been having so far. So I do believe that's been playing a pretty sizable role in that. But at the same time, it is kind of villainous looking. Or I should say cartoon villainous. Actual villains have no real good or bad look to them. They just made that way so you can as a visual representation. So you can instantly look at somebody and kind of see, especially if you're watching like a child cartoon or whatnot, or even adult movies. Watch like action movies or whatnot. There's that certain look that allows you kind of instantly understand kind of what's good, what's bad. Now again, that gets played with certain other movies where they create expectations and then they can break them later on. Or you can watch certain anime where it's the other way around. If you watch, I have like the one Zetman comes to mind, where your main character kind of looks like what would be a more kind of sinister looking character from any other show, and he winds up being a really great guy. It's a fun show. I love that show. It's not regarded very highly, I think, in the general community. I think most people don't even know it exists. But I enjoy it. It's a visual powerhouse kind of show. But it's the one I can think of that comes to mind where your main character, your main hero of the show, he just has that stereotypical look of like the villainous stuff you'll see in other shows. Okay, so we have a lot of the same size. Oh, I did none of that on camera. I apologize. We have a lot of these kind of same size pieces going on, so we do need to interject smaller ones here and there to kind of help pack things out. Not everything is huge. When you had dealing with hair, things are different lengths as it goes, so we do need to incorporate other ones that are smaller into this. But at least our core is a good big size that we can work with. So let's go add one or two of these sessions, kind of pieces to it, and see how that works, doesn't work, fills it out, doesn't fill it out. I'm just going to go with that. Now what we can't have is we can't have a void in the middle. And also this needs to come down so it looks like it's getting into an area that is tied off at least a little bit. Kind of like you need to come up just a little so it looks like it gets brought into that area that is tied off. Alright, so that's good. We're still feeling super flat back here, but at the same time, this is the tricky spot because I can't go too far over that way because I'm going to start hitting the nail. So, but I do want to add something, but that something is going to come right back over. Because again, we're feeling very linear on this, and that's not necessarily what I want to have. I'm not sure if that's correct. I know ideally I'd like to be fully radial and not linear, but at the same time I am stuck by that nail section that's in there, so there's only so far back it can go. This one seems like hits the spot. Every now and again you get one in there, it's like that one just hit. That just filled that one little void I didn't even know existed. It just needed something small just to kind of fill it. That hit the spot. And you can see now why I'm very insistent on putting the little lines on this now rather than after the fact, because if I start trying to put the lines, if everything were smooth at this point and I had to put any kind of datum lines or whatnot, at this point, yeah, forget it. That's going to be so hard to do. Okay. Perfect. Now can we... Okay, so that one I just put in is going back too far. We need it actually coming up a little bit. And like I said, we look really funky. Once we add those front parts on, we start getting more into actual bang. The eyebrows are still too deep set. No amount of hair I'm putting on this is going to save those eyebrows. And the whatever that is. It's just, it is so deep set in. But again, once we paint the eyeballs white, hopefully that'll bring it back. But yeah, I think I'm just gonna... I'm actually not feeling too bad about the back there. We have all the hair coming up. It's doing what I need. It might just take a little bit of floofing, but I think we take that off and we have a fun thumbnail we're gonna have on this. Yeah. But that is... I said I may play with this a little bit. Afterwards, I might add one more of these. I might take something out. I might just play. But generally speaking, back of the hair is now in. This is pretty much... I think it's going to be pretty much ready for kind of hardening. And then hopefully next time when we come, we might just actually finish the modeling portion of the Bang project here. And Bang Shishigami will actually become Bang Shishigami. But let's keep you off. For an ending look, we're just gonna keep you off. Let me go and floof you out a little bit. You don't need to be, again, that one doesn't need to be tight in there. We want you a little looser. Those kind of have to be tight. They're tucked into the scarf. They're there. This one here isn't tucked into the scarf, so if we can keep you looser, that's all the better. Actually, there is something I have wrong. I do know a thing or two about ponytails. Hold on, we're going to have a slightly longer session. There is a thing or two I know about ponytails here, and that is not everything actually gets into the ponytail. Every now and again, things miss. So we come down, we need one or two that just kind of come straight down. One or two kind of little guys. They're not going to be big, they don't do much, but just you just need one or two that just didn't make it. That's in the realm of, yeah, you know something. Something just feels like it's missing. What's missing? It just, all the stuff is here. How can I be missing something? Oh, right. We know how anatomy works. I do have longer hair. I have an understanding of how this kind of works. Been there and done that. Or been there, seen that, I should say, on this one. So yeah, even though you can't see it from the front, just having one or two little strands that come down like that, I think are going to be beneficial in the end. And of course, because we've been manhandling everything literally on here, we need to reapply all of this. All right, we need to keep the part, make the part very visible. Apparently I haven't been touching too much of this side. The other side, absolutely I have been. Yeah, no, 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 no. None of that. None of that. Okay, there we go. Now, I made this part very badly. Now I have hit some of this. Okay, trying to grab the ears as much as possible so that I can get you in. That's in place. And there we go. We got some hair for Bang. It's doing the crazy stuff, but that is where we are. And hopefully next time, he will be done. And that will be completion on the building phase of the Bang Shishigami project. But until next time, you can think about that and enjoy.